All right, we can go ahead and move on to Harry. Looks like you're here and ready. And
good to go. Should I just go ahead and share?
yeah, and just say a little bit about yourself.
Can
And
do.
yeah.
Well, I see a bunch of familiar faces. So good to see you all. My name is Harry Greene. I'm in Trumansburg, New York. It's about 15 minutes north of Ithaca. I have a farm here. I have some photos of that. It's 50 acres, 20 hectares, and let's see, 15 acres of that is forest. And the rest is newly planted trees and some spots that I'm reserving for ponds and other. So there's some wet soil that is TBD, because every year I plant something and then figure out a new pattern and want to keep planting new things. All right, now I'm gonna share screen. All right, can y'all see this? Maybe so. Is that sharing?
Yep,
All
it's
right.
sharing great. Thanks.
Good to go. All right. So this is a presentation on cold climate syntropic agriculture. I have to move this back and forth between audiences. So folks that are new to Syntro and are already interested in food forests, and folks like yourselves who already have a pretty deep knowledge of syntropic food forests and agroforestry. So there are slides that we can dive deeper into. There are some topics that I will more gloss over because I think that they'll be familiar. I think we'll have plenty of time for questions, discussions, comments, etc. All right. So agenda. I'll give an intro of what our business does and crops that we work with, state of agroforestry where I live in the northeast cold climate U.S. And then a few of my takes on cold climate Syntro, and then my own food forest. All right, so we run a business called Propagate, and we plant large scale agroforestry systems on farmland. We're managing about 2,400 acres between Kentucky, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, and New York. And the idea is that it can all be mechanized. We plant a whole lot of chestnuts. These are not herbicide strips. It's just seeded to a different cover crop. All of those alleys are harvested for hay. And that can be either harvested for hay or the biomass can be used and left to decompose. So the idea is that we're scaling up agroforestry, and at the same time, I have my home farm where Syntro is more of a staple or a point of experimentation. Propagate does three different things. We have software called Overyield, which I'll show you in a sec, but you can draw lines on a map and get economics. So costs, revenues, yields, labor hours for a system. Basically have crop templates, and then you can mix and match on your farm with soil data, at least in the US, and really understand what it's going to take to manage an agroforestry system long term. And from there, we take those systems and plant them out. So much like a fencing contractor or a solar developer, we go and plant agroforestry systems for hire. And then third, we actually lease land and own trees as an asset separate from the land itself. So it's all like solar finance, where we raise a pool of capital and establish trees as assets. And that allows us to not have to buy land to plant more agroforestry systems. All right. Home farm. I have a bunch of chestnuts. This was a year or two ago. That's seaberry and squash with cover crops, willows and apples. I have newer photos of those, but I have Outside the deer fence, this is chestnuts and black locust. Locust for fence posts, chestnuts and hickory for nuts. It's bitter on hickory. This is my 1 acre food forest. My friend Courtney leases 2 half-acre plots to grow vegetables. This is the barn where I'm sitting right now. This is my neighbor's field of goldenrod and some chestnuts. This neighbor down here just put in some grid tile, so I have more water to work with or deal with now. All right, crops that we plant a lot of. This is a groundhog in a tree. If you've never seen one, chestnuts are unique in that there's there's more demand than there is supply. So they're a big tree that can yield ecosystem services and food and money at the same time. So we're fans. We're trying to scale chestnuts in the United States to a greater extent than they are now. Scaled now. All right. You've probably eaten a chestnut. If you haven't, they're kind of like a plantain. We also work a lot with green plantain. Like what are they called? Tostones. I would compare chestnuts to those. All right, Robinia pseudoacacia, black locust. Let's see, we just imported some shipmast varieties from Hungary. It's called the Turbo Obelisk variety group. Those are fast growing and straight growing, so like a flagpole instead of like a snake. We also have 2 other shipmast varieties in tissue culture. And the idea is that we can plant fewer trees per hectare, whether that's in a polyculture or not, and get better saw logs sooner that grow straight or fence posts. Locust is used for rot-resistant decking and playgrounds. I was at a farm yesterday that is harvesting their locusts for the elephant enclosure at a zoo. So we need some photos with elephants and rhinos of locust. All right. This is the creek on my farm. This is a pretty good representation of the biome I live in, with a lower touch forest within 100 feet of all the creeks. You have a whole lot of maple, a lot of black walnut, Strugons nigra. The ash was killed by the ash borer, so we just have little ash shoots coming up. Early successional species, a lot of poplar. By that I mean populus, aspen. I could go on for a while. In the winter, this is the status quo. So we have 6 months or so of stick season and snow and ice. It's a continental climate. We don't have maritime warmth that keeps us from getting pretty cold. Climate analog would be, call it the Korean Peninsula, or northeastern China is a good one. All right. If you're looking for mature agroforestry systems, this is not Syntro, but it's forest thinned for silvopasture. This is a farm. This is the farm I was at yesterday, and they're doing very good things. It's called Angus Glen Farm, if you want to look them up. All right. Biggest challenges. It's cold enough to grow a whole lot of stone fruit, but we have things like sporulating brown rot, fire blight, lots of insect pests that make those traditional Adam and Eve fruits harder to grow. So every newbie wants to plant an apple, but I try and get them to plant black currants first because currants are way easier. Late frosts will zap our blossoms pretty frequently, whether that's peaches or apples. Rodents will live underneath the snowpack, and it's what's called the subnivean zone. And if we stack sticks on the ground, that creates really good rodent habitat. So there is a tension, a compromise, a balance when you're thinking about Syntro and voles in particular. And then agriculture is pretty mechanized in this part of the world. There are fewer farmers than we had, obviously, 100 years ago, and labor rates are relatively high. So call it $20 to $24 an hour for labor, depending on if you're doing things legally or hiring migrant labor. Yeah, there are a lot of ways to look at that. Okay. What I usually emphasize in cold climate centro, I do not have a monopoly on the truth, but these are things that I've landed on. So I really like to follow the concepts and everything that's going on in the tropics and subtropics and then adapt that to cold places. I have a vendetta against rodents, so watch out for them. I like to think about below ground biomass, and a lot of that stems obviously from above ground biomass, but I'm thinking a lot about root sloughing. And then another thing that I think often goes overlooked by people, including myself, who are inclined to think about things, trees being living things, but as opposed to people, they're things. We're often looking to optimize a syntropic system or agroforestry system, and we should be looking at what makes us the most stoked. So you want to increase and maintain stoke over time and make sure that you're doing something that makes you happy because it is your land at the end of the day, or land you're managing. I whitewater kayaking got hit in the face with another kayak in 2011, and my teeth got punched through my lip, and I got stitches up my face. And I sat for 4 hours in a Canadian emergency room behind a kid with a chainsaw cut on his arm. I have another friend who cut into his knee, and his then girlfriend took care of him for a while. They are now married. He converted from drinking, smoking Scottish Alistair to Mormonism and moved to Utah. So interaction between chainsaws and Utah. It's a well-worn path. That's not real. That's a joke. But unless you're a trained arborist, I tell people to be careful climbing a tree with a chainsaw. Another thing, biomass is amazing. And I was talking to Byron about selling willow cuttings and then buying wood chips, which is kind of an infinite biomass glitch. So yes, grow biomass plants and think about the most effective way in a climate to obtain wood chips in a place where they cost $10 to $20 per cubic yard. All right. And then I've thought a decent amount about strata. And the higher we are in latitude, the fewer options we have for shade tolerant species. That's going to be different for everyone's goals, but at the end of the day, we want to ask what our point B is in succession and what we want to maintain, which I'll dive into shortly. All right. When I first saw rows of biomass being accumulated, I intuited that Ernst was trying to replicate a cold climate duff layer in a place with much more rapid decomposition. And then I was watching various videos and saw him say that. So I think that's a cool point to keep in mind. And at the end of the day, we have to ask not just if we're managing biomass, but what we want to be doing on a daily basis. Because I sometimes I have a peeve around the word demonstration farm because it often signifies that you're doing a thing that you think other people will like instead of a thing that makes you come alive. Those things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, but I want folks to manage a thing that makes them most excited, and I feel that that excitement is the most contagious as opposed to managing or potentially not managing and neglecting a site or food forest agroforestry system that they have planted because they think other people think it's cool. All right, on to wood chips. At least in my context, it's not super efficient for me to make my own wood chips. I can do that. It's more expensive than pruning my biomass plants, throwing them in the aisle, going over them with a flail mower, and then just buying wood chips. So you'll have to do the math for your context, but I can only be asked so much to make my own wood chips, as given that they're a very accessible waste product here. I'm a fan of herbaceous biomass. It's not a substitute for woody biomass, but I'll do things like instead of mowing my aisles, just scythe my aisles and then hay fork that grass, which decomposes pretty rapidly onto my rows. I like doing that with first cut hay. So you have mulch, soil cover for, call it our hotter season, not necessarily our dry season, but what ends up being warmer. All right. Has everyone seen a side discharge flail mower? If not, but I'm a big fan of these. It hasn't made sense for us to buy one yet because we're only growing so many crops that are planted in long rows and on 20 by 20 feet spacing. This doesn't necessarily make sense, but I'm a big fan of wet biomass that just cut onto rows of trees. Okay. Rodents. I usually have a slide before this saying viewer discretion is advised, but this happens all the time. We had a client who didn't want to mow before winter, and they were managing their own system, so that's on them. But they lost 25% of their 1,800 chestnuts to voles. So you got to be real careful with voles and rabbits and rodents. The danger zone for us is between planting and when the bark is big enough to withstand rodents. I put hawk perches in the field and around and just screwed onto my deer fence so the hawks come out and the owls do too. Sit on the post, swoop down and eat the voles, which is great. Okay, below ground biomass. These aren't my photos, but I like pruning for soil aeration via willows. Big fan of that, as opposed to creating a duff layer. Not as opposed to, but focusing on the below ground biomass and optimizing for that, or at least just thinking about it in addition to many sticks on the ground. I think this segues into biomass being a low bar, but I want my biomass to do many things. So pollinators, woody florals, it's stick season 6 months out of the year. So I want color in the winter. I want to be stoked about red and yellow sticks. So floral arrangements, baskets. If you're an artist, I'm a big fan of willow for many reasons. All right. I can share this presentation. There are a bunch of these, tables, but non-food trees and shrubs that I like: jay choke, willow, speckled alder. Right now are some of my favorites. I like red bud too. I want witch hazel and buttonbush to grow faster, but I'll show some photos of those in a sec. Okay. One of the questions that I like to ask when talking about Syntro is, like, what's your end goal? So do you want reforestation with some food, or do you just want reforestation, or do you want like an orchard with really cool ecology? And these aren't a pick one or the other. It's a spectrum. It's a continuum. It's not a binary. But you want to ask what makes you most stoked. All right. Chainsaws. This is Fazenda de Toca in Sao Paulo that I visited in 2016. State of Sao Paulo. They climb the trees. They don't climb the trees. They have a tractor with a lift, and then they chainsaw off and high pollard and then chip all the biomass. And if you want to do that, that's totally cool. I don't love the safety factor there. I'm pretty non-risk averse. Like, I ski pretty fast. I go whitewater kayaking, but the like stoke to nar ratio, or the or the reward to risk ratio for high pruning stuff like this, I don't love it. So you can make your own decisions, but that's my take. All right, succession. We've all seen this: cornfield, pasture, goldenrod, trees, thick forest, forest with more competition, hemlocks, mature forest. That's like how it goes here. And then we can chat about this in a sec, but I'm always thinking like, where are you going, and what do you want to do? Do you want to get to this and have black currants along the way, or do you just want to get to this, or do you want to have mega food forest with a lot of berries in your yard? Because if you want this in your yard, that's totally cool. But naming that from the start is really nice. Okay. Boom. This is fun. Berries, fruit, fence posts, nuts, and wolves and stuff. And I feel like a lot of the super earthy crowd is into wolves and wants berries along the way. And some people just want like berries and elderberries and herbs, and that's in either is totally fine. I just think naming what our goal is really important, because at the end of the day, like, Syntro can be reforestation, but honestly, it's anthropocentric reforestation. So figuring out where you want to be is a real good idea. Products that I like: willow florals. I sell them to florists in February and March, and they like the ones with the catkins the most, but the yellow ones look the best outside. I also sell J-choke seed tubers on the internet. Those, in terms of just like, if you're starting from a yard or starting from zero, I love J-choke. Elderberries, if you like cough syrup, I like mixing elderberries and black currants together. I think that tastes way better, and you get an oomph from the black currants. So even though they fruit at different times, freeze them, juice them, put them all together. I make sorbet, which is just frozen juice, but sounds fancier because it's a French word. I just threw this slide in here. We're talking about J-choke in between trees. This was last year, but I'm just like scything this back and using it as mulch on the pear trees in my food forest. So this is not full of mega diverse biomass plants. It's just J-choke pear, and I just scythe the J-choke back and then harvest the tubers in the early spring. Okay, same thing with elderberry and plums. I like that the elderberry is giving me a reason to not have to weed in row. So I just want a shrub that I like to increase below ground biomass and produce something and fill this niche. I'm in this 1 acre food forest. I'm not really concerned about different strata, because I have all of, like, I don't need fence posts on 1 acre. I have a million fence posts from outside the deer fence. Drone shot. This is willow. This is Asian pear. So another big thing that I'm a fan of. Cut the willow in the winter for florals, or nursery stock, or just throw it on the ground and mow over it. And then this pear will eventually be bigger, and I'll just keep cutting the willow back. Other things I'm growing, I like Asian pear and sea berry. I grow apples and pears because I want to get better at growing apples and pears. I ate if anyone's familiar with miracle berry, it's this red fruit that makes lemons taste amazing. So I ate like a full lemon a few years ago, and it stripped all the enamel off my teeth. So now when I eat sour things, it's just not super fun. So I like lower acid fruits now. And I need some dental intervention to like re-enamel or remineralize my teeth. I'm a big fan of black locust fence posts. We also logged our forest of aspens and used all that wood. These are just other successional products. Nuts, chestnuts. All right, forest in for silvopasture. I usually throw up this slide in terms of maintenance cost and effort. So if you don't want to spend a lot of time but want reforestation, maybe you want lower maintenance cost things. And that's okay. So if you just want some elderberry and some black locust, and you just want to get to forest cover, and you want to work in some chestnuts to that, I feel like that is a totally reasonable thing to do. So he's asking, like, what successional state do you want to maintain? And that isn't an absolute question, but like a where on your land question. So you could have a Syntro food forest right outside your house, but do you want massive black walnut trees outside your house? Maybe, maybe not. All right, so same question again, but like, do you want amazing bird watching with snacks, or do you want an orchard with more ecology? So very good, very important. Okay. This is from last year. I'll skip. Yeah. So chestnuts, hickory, locust. This is all locust. This is the food forest. This is chestnuts. This is chestnuts and persimmon. There are about 86 species of trees on the farm. That's the food forest with a lot. There's a lot of cover crops in here that I'm using to mulch. Last year again, that's this year. We had a lot of peaches this year, which I was very surprised and excited about. This is a tilled strip around the food forest, so the voles feel uncomfortable invading the food forest from outside of it. So constant rabbit, call it like rodent, being a rodent adversary is really important. Okay, more drone shots. It's pretty flat, honestly. So if it's over 3 or 4% slope, I'll do some keyline-ish jazz. I love keyline, and I want to apply it appropriately. All right, where I'm at for. I'll jump into Overyield, our software. The scoop here is that I can draw a grid on a map. And then I can, let's see, Syntro course pattern. I'll pick that one. And all those trees are in there. I can view that pattern too. So it's a mix of locust and chestnut this is going towards reforestation, but I'll thin out the locust. I have willow as biomass. I have blackcurrant and elderberry as food medicines, and false indigo as below ground biomass. I have that pattern planted just in one row right over here, and then another iteration of that along the deer fence, because I want to see what that looks like long term, but I don't want to plant like an acre or a half acre of that. So basically you select your species and then hit summary, and it gives you economics. I just added a bunch more trees, so this might take a second to load. But it'll give you rate of return. You can filter by all sections, filter by crops, chestnut. It looks like I used the wrong template for that. And then locust, same deal. I've loaded way too many crops in here because of all my Syntro rows, but then you can go to yield and look at pounds of everything. You can switch to metric if you want kilos. And then let's see, board feet of lumber. You can look at just your revenue. You can look at your operational costs. That should load. And then what's really interesting for me with Syntro is how much labor you're spending. So labor hours per crop per year. And if you go in here and say, all right, I'm going to spend for, let's pick a species, hickory. I'm going to spend 13.8 hours total digging holes in that installation. And if I say, hey, I don't think that's accurate, I can go into crops, click on hickory. I have my yield curve here, operations, and let's see, dig hole, and change the time per tree or change my implement. Mowing, you can contract all that out or do it yourself. And lots of operations that you can change. And when you change anything in here, your economics automatically update. For different crops, you can have, say, every 4 years, you'll have a 20% crop loss. So that's a way to work in uncertainty. And the idea with overyield is that we want to make agroforestry more accessible to more people. And when we add the numerical labor driven financial economic time spent driven data, then that reduces risk for people, or perception of risk, and then more folks will want to plant trees. So that is what I had for today. I'm happy to jump back into anything that makes sense.
I have a question, Harry. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Does overview include the stoke outcome over time or just the cost?
Yeah, man. Yeah, like personal ecosystem services. If I think you'd have to figure out you'd have to put a dollar value on it. So you could kind of talk to your friends or your spouse and be like, hey, how stoked am I when I come inside? And then maybe you don't want to put that into dollars, but you could figure out a way to work that in.
I like that because that's like totally, yeah, it should bring you joy, right? So I had also a more serious question. After it's about your below ground biomass statement, and I also am aware of that. Like after watching some of Christine Jones' podcasts, and the fact that they're pointing more towards the liquid pathway as the larger pathway for soil regeneration. It also influenced my design a little bit, and I'm curious, in like your own food forest, that section by your home, how did it change your design and management when you learned about that? And if so, can you share some details, or were you already
I think I was already on that train when I planted everything. Um, I've I've been so cautious of rodents that even though I like above ground biomass, I was just looking for other, like, I was examining the like my end game with all these biomass trees, thinking about those trees pumping hormones, liquid carbon into the ground, root sloughing, just aeration going sideways. The way I explain it to just people that are that don't know a lot about the stuff but are walking around with me is when I cut the willow back, the holes that the willow roots live in, the pears can then go use those holes. And like, was I thinking of? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just want dead organic matter and worm castings underground. I've gone and dug up willow trees in the food forest, and the root ball is really impressive. And when I know, I mean, I don't monitor this with a sample size of 30, but I go and when I cut back everything, I know that part of that root mass is dying off and just leaving carbon underground. Same with like false indigo roots they're like big and aggressive. Red osier dogwood, it has thinner roots, but I mean, same thing there. Black locust actually has a lower root to shoot ratio as far as we know. But when I'm thinking about locust, I'm thinking about it for fence posts, and I'm okay with that as a high strata lollipop tree that I cut out for a fence post.
Hey, Harry, follow up on that question for me is there's conflicting evidence about roots sloughing after pruning above ground biomass. I have found very little reliable evidence that even significant pruning cuts actually results in killing roots. Have you found evidence that that is the case?
No, I'm open to either thing being true. I wouldn't be married to that outcome. If it turned out that like didn't happen, like root sloughing didn't happen, I don't know. It seems logical to me that that does happen, but I'm very open to being wrong. I think if we take that to the extreme, like if you just kill the tree, then or just keep cutting it, then the roots will, I guess, eventually die. So I guess that would be root sloughing, but yeah, I'm not married to either outcome.
Yeah, I mean, like for grass, it's well known that if you cut grass really low, you don't kill the roots and it regrows. But then if you cut within a short period of time, within 3 weeks, if you cut again, then you do kill a lot of roots.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a lot of it has to do with the pruning frequency and the management.
And I would add, without root slough, we know there's root exudates and other benefits to just having living roots in the ground. And when I saw those videos with Christine Jones, how it changed, the question that came up in my mind is, can I use slightly less frequent management plants that don't need to be pruning as much? At that point, it was mostly tropical, so we were using like Mombasa in our interrows, which are labor, require a lot of cuts, and can I use something with less frequent cuts, still get the effects below ground? And then the question is, the main, if that works as good, I don't think anybody knows, but then the question is, well, the main value of the mulch is for weed suppression, especially in the early years. And then can you compensate for that by having a really cool consortium of living plants in your tree line that just kind of block them out? So it's it's an idea that I have had, and there's a couple times we've changed like the grass species, but I haven't done a lot to practice that idea, and I think it's worth exploring. And yeah, I wondered, on your larger scale systems where it's all mechanized, do you have a plant do you have a consortium for feeding the soil through liquid pathway, or you kind of have to compromise that?
It's honestly, we just plant a hay mix in Kentucky and plant black locust every N rows. The thing there is, like, we've raised multiple millions of dollars to plant all of that. And the thing is, like, we have to manage that in a way that is consistent with the capital expectations of the people whose money it is. So while I would like more woody plant diversity in those systems, we have to do what is financially reasonable in over a 10 to 15 year time frame.
I just had one other question. Now, in your systems where you're doing the most chopping of whether it's herbaceous or whatever material and putting it close to the tree rows, what's your latest, most updated take on the vole pressure? Are you protecting each fruit tree with the vole guard? Are you still losing a lot of trees? Have anything shifted for you that way?
So in my 1 acre food forest, I take biomass wool from elsewhere, put it on the ground, run over it with a flail mower, and that chops a lot of it up. I also have tarp squares. It's like, think like a square of 3 to 4 foot stickers with old billboard tarp that I was damaged from other stuff. I put that on the ground. It's that, or a piece of plywood or roofing or whatever. Pull it up and then play whack-a-vole. So I'm like actively killing voles and making it really uncomfortable for them in other places in the orchard. So I'm not willing to like stop doing other stuff to see if I can have bad rodent habitat, but still a lot of biomass on the sides of my rows. For that reason, I'm a big fan of using like the first cut hay, using that, and then like having a relative, not clean, it's the wrong word for it, soil surface going into winter, but not like anything that looks like thick sticks and pasture.
My first thought as a potential solution for the liquid pathway or below ground biomass on large scale is, which I don't know if it exists, but some sort of lower stratum biomass producing like mother tree that could be pruned low and keep coming back. And then of course it'd probably have to have some sort of economic value.
Yeah. The ones that I do.
If anybody knows what that is, please unmute and share.
Well, if I don't know if this aligns with definition of mother tree, but the willow, elderberry, and then gumi, I really like for short but enthusiastic shrubs that are relatively permanent that just are in between the fruit trees.
And privet does the same thing, but can grow really lots of biomass in very, very shady context. It's a beast of a plant, but it can do that.
Nice.
And that's edible, right? Isn't that like the medieval time main source of one of the big sources of food? Yeah, I think so.
Which one?
I think I might be confusing it with something else, but privet.
Privet.
Or privet berry is edible. We'll have to ask the jury.
I do not trust what I said based on the response of look on everybody's face here.
I sometimes distinguishing between edible and eatable is good.
No, okay, it's not. It must be something with a similar sounding name that I'm thinking about.
Peanuts.
No, it's like there was like this medieval crop, but I'll get back with you on that.
Cool.
That's not woody.
No, this one.
Is there a comment in the chat?
There is one comment in the chat that to just say, I think it was Sam was sort of agreeing about root sloughing is mainly a product of overgrazing, and not something you would see necessarily with pruning. And he recommended Jim Elizondo.
Yeah.
From the ranching world, who speaks about that for more info. What's the Amorpha or mulberry for leaf fodder feeding livestock do well in partial shade.
I like
You'd
that.
to try hedgerows of those in a nut orchard system.
Yeah. Yeah, I like sometimes a good quip is that silvopasture is a food forest and the livestock are the food. So you could have poultry underneath lots of different things and meat, milk, dairy, all that. Yeah. Sorry, I think you're muted, Roger.
Yeah, I just was muting it intentionally because I think it's causing an echo for some people. All right, Sam says thanks for sharing, loves it. Anybody else have any questions? With that, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much, both Brian and Harry. I am recording this as I always do, and I'll post it on YouTube and post a link. And feel free, please share it in case people who couldn't attend today would benefit from watching.
Cool. Roger, I'll put the link to this deck in the chat. And
Great.
I'll also send it to you on the FB.
Great. I can post that in the description. And then we're always looking for presenters. I don't have a date, but it's probably January, our next session, roughly 4 months. So if anybody wants to present or knows somebody who is doing work along this line, send me a message and we'll chat more. So.
Very good. Good stuff. Thank you all for coming to chat. Hopefully I'll meet you all someday.
Take care.
Bye-bye.